Here we hand you the wrench so you can tighten the wheel and get your shit back on track, gentlemen.
I'm gonna tell you about a woman whose heart is sunshine, whose body burned hot. I'm gonna tell you about a woman who's cold as tundra with some frozen eyes. I can tell by the way she moves.
Welcome to the C-Note Show, gentlemen, brought to you by Great Men Move Mountains. It's 11:02 here on Tuesday, June 30th, last day of June of 2020. July is almost here. It's rainy and cool here today, and down in New Zealand where the Kiwis live, Patrick's living, he says it's cold because it's the middle of winter down there. He's in bed tucked in at 5 a.m. New Zealand time like he is every single day. Thanks for being here, Patrick, and every other man that's here right now. Love you guys so much. You're here because you found Great Men Move Mountains because you are experiencing or you have recently experienced death by female, as we call it in the tribe, which is what is going on. I've tried to be the best man that I can. I've tried to be this nice guy. I've tried to do everything that I learned from either my father or just doing this trial and error here, and it doesn't seem to be working. She's upset. She's telling me that she wants either nothing to do with me, or I love you, but I'm not in love with you, or I need space, or something thereof, or you're afraid of that coming here soon. You know the wheels are starting to come off, and that's why you're here. Here we hand you the wrench so you can tighten the wheel and get your shit back on track, gentlemen. Here we do our daily work as men. And the only woman allowed on this show is my partner in crime, my fiance, my co-coach. We're both professional coaches, Miss Cynthia Cruz. Welcome, Cynthia.
Hi, good morning and happy Tuesday to you. And I just wanted to do a shout out that Patrick, every day when I jump on and I hear your voice and I know that you're tucked in bed, just as Jeff said, it is grounding and wonderful and exciting to me. So thank you for being a rock and a pillar in this community every day.
Yeah, I fully agree. I was watching some John Wineland, who I have a clip of today, and he was talking about masculinity being aware and in flow with the emotions of what's happening, but having this masculine grounding, this tether to who you are as a man. And Patrick, you definitely have that. So guys, our theme of this week is why anger is killing your sex life. And you don't want to be that man like I was in 2015 who would blow up and be the tantruming little boy. You want to be a new man. But you're that man who's starting to rise. And Cynthia, we already have 4 different guys in the chat saying, Patrick, you rock. Hugh here, Patrick. Patrick's X-rated before the show. If you guys aren't here live before the show, you're missing out. Patrick's X-rated. Not every day. You just got to catch them on the right day. So like we always do here, we're going to start off with a post from our forum. And we've got John Wineland clip. I've got some Jordan Peterson, got some Mark Groves, got some kick-ass stuff for you guys today. Absolutely. I also got to have a quote from the book Super Coach and a quote from Steve Horstman's book, Straight Talk Tools. If we can get to all that today, I always have more than we can generally get to. So it's a nice cliffhanger for the next day. And gentlemen, here we do our daily work. Our huge tools on our show, guys, are our morning kingly plan. You know, if at the very least you're doing number 1, 2, 3, where you're writing a 1-sentence appreciation or you're sharing some kind of appreciation while you sit on your throne in the morning. You read something inspirational for 1 minute or 3 pages of inspiration, and then you ask yourself, what do I know to be true today? We ground ourselves in the 3 forms of confidence here on this show: emotional, behavioral, and spiritual. And here's our opening question from the forum. We started this yesterday. She seemingly can go from hate to love, from love to hate in 24 hours and back again, and everywhere in between. I accept this. I have no judgment of it. But how do I know what to believe is true? I can understand remaining calm in the eye of the storm. However, when it's swung from I want to separate to I want to be together, that's when I found the vast variation difficult to manage, because I felt as though I needed at least a baseline of emotion to know what the hell is going on between us. For example, when we were separating, we had a discussion about being together but apart. So living apart, but still together as a couple. We were both on that same page. The final week before I left, she was all happy and even posting about this great new chapter of our relationship. The day after I moved out, she was back to her confused, distant self as she had been a few weeks earlier. She no longer wanted living apart together. At the time, it confused the shit out of me. Now I see that both were true for her. One day she wanted us, the next day she didn't. Both were true for her. What the hell is it? If you're a man watching this, maybe it's your first week on the show, or you're watching this on YouTube. If you're one of our regulars, like the amazing men that are here right now already, you understand that multiple things can be true for a woman at the same time, right? She's like spaghetti and men are like waffles. Men compartmentalize things a lot better than a woman does. So let's bounce back to Cynthia. I want to bounce back to, even if she doesn't like it, she may be swooning, if you will, or she may be rocking back and forth between two different energies, like this post. Okay, so this post of, at one moment, she's enjoying the idea of living apart but staying together as a couple. And then the next day, she's confused. And our poster is confused. She's confused, and now so our man is confused. It's confusing the shit out of him, he says. So give us a little insight as a woman, what she may have been going through. And we have certainly men here today where their wife is like flip-flopping. They're in separation, or they're in this, space, no contact, or they just ended no contact, or they're concerned about that, right? And she's kind of flip-flopping. What is your opinion on that? What are your thoughts about that for our men here today?
Well, thank you for asking that. And I just want to say thank you for all of you who are holding space for that, because that is so incredibly confusing. And I deeply understand why this man's just like, just give me a baseline emotion. There can be variation, but at least just give me a baseline. As you asked me that question, I was feeling into that. And when a man is, again, fully owning who he is, and he is like in his king and his warrior and his magician and his lover, and he feels like there's no parts of those parts that he has to stuff down or hold back or protect the world from, that he feels that what he gives in those energy, it can be freely provided to the world. That is it's a freeing, clear, uplifting, momentum type energy for a woman to be part of. And so, all of us have these parts that we're like, I'm freely going to be this, I'm going to be this, I'm going to move out into the world. And then maybe this part of me, I need to kind of keep under wraps. What I'm sensing in this situation is this gentleman is like, there's some parts of him that he's like freely moving forward. And then other parts he's trying to stuff down a little bit. Maybe it's his anger. Maybe there's some shame still from how the relationship has been before. And so he's a beacon, a leading force that she wants to tap into. And then as soon as he starts kind of stuffing or holding back parts of himself, she feels like unsettled and unsure, and maybe even a little claustrophobic. So I have a feeling that's kind of what's happening.
Oh, that's a great point. So if this man isn't in his grounded nature, if he isn't feeling confident and consistent and clear, right? The 3 C's, confident, consistent, and clear, then she's going to feel that. And she feels maybe he's stuffing these energies, you're saying, Cynthia. And so that makes her uncertain and feel unsafe, and makes her not feel the pieces of the pie, the pieces of a woman's relationship pie. Cynthia, is that what you're saying?
Yeah. And like, so if you're stuffing parts of yourself, it's literally hard for her to breathe freely and openly around you. And that's what feminine energy loves to do, is breathe and be alive around you.
Oh, I love that. I was typing some of what you said here. If he starts to stuff parts of himself, it's literally hard for her to breathe within herself around him and feel alive. Yeah. So cool. I love that. So gentlemen, thank you, Cynthia. That's phenomenal. I want to honor some men here today, and then I want to bounce over to Jordan Peterson. So this clip, Cynthia and I curate absolutely everything on this show. Sometimes we're watching hour-long shows, hour-long information or interviews because we want to, and we love this field. And we pull 2 or 3 minute clips out of it. There's no exception today. We've got some great things lined up for you. And I love that you guys are on here today. I want to honor you. Looks like every one of you are regulars on the show. Love you guys so much. Walters and Rueben and Rob, Kent, Patrick, Randy, and Harry, Hussein, and Jason, and Brett, and Andy, and Hans. Love you guys so much being on here. So here from Jordan Peterson, he talks about you need to forget about what you think you know. So when we came to this work, we didn't know what we didn't know. And shit, I certainly couldn't see the back of my own head up to the culmination of my past relationship in 2015. So those of you that know my story know that. And I didn't know what I didn't know. And that's why it's so valuable to be a part of a tribe like this, guys. This is why, Cynthia and I bring this to you. I wish this was available to me back in 2015. And, you know, I could get on my soapbox about that. We just love being here. I love doing this show. And this is our heart in the world. So let me share this. It's about 1 minute from Jordan Peterson about you need to forget about what you think you know.
If you talk to people who are suffering existentially, they're always in love with the products of their intellect. They do not pay attention. They say, well, I can't see how my life has any meaning. And the answer to that is, you're not seeing, you're thinking. And you can easily think yourself into a corner where your life has no meaning. It's a cheap trick. I can say, who cares about this documentary? No one, it's not going to matter in 1 billion years, right? Or in 100 years, or whatever. I can pick a time frame within which this event is irrelevant. Okay, so then you can derive from that fact that it's irrelevant. Or you can derive from that fact that that's a stupid way to think. So, and there's lots of other things that work better than thinking. Paying attention is better than thinking. It's much better than thinking. Paying attention allows you to listen to people who don't agree with you. Paying attention allows you to learn things that you don't already know. So, you know, if it's thinking or attention that should be the God, it's like attention rules. Thinking, that's a subordinate phenomenon, but it likes to pop up on top, you know, because it likes its little tight theories and it likes to be right.
Yeah, oh my gosh. So we can think ourselves into a corner very easily, and thinking likes to be right, and it wants to subordinate everything else. But what he's saying is what we really want to be paying attention to is attention, a focus of awareness. Awareness is going to trump intellect. Awareness is going to trump thinking all the time. Last night I had trouble sleeping. I actually had some feedback from a client that I was kind of concerned about, to be honest. So I was doing a lot of introspection. I practiced meditation for upwards of an hour when I was laying in bed, and I could quiet my mind, but my body didn't want to sleep. And so I actually read the book Super Coach by Michael Neal, which is a lot about spiritual confidence. I'm going to share a quote from that today. And, you know, mine was about coming back to my awareness, and my awareness of why I'm doing what I'm doing in the world, why I'm getting up every day, what my purpose and my adventure is in life is to lead with my heart and to lead with honestly grounded knowledge and grounded wisdom that we curate for you, right? It's certainly not about any one of us thinking we know everything, because that's definitely not it. And that's kind of why I was stayed up. It was like a check for myself. It wasn't really anything that this, gentleman said. It was a check for myself that I'm leading with my heart, that I'm leading in the world in the way that I want to. So, gentlemen, I'd love for you to raise your hand or jump in if you have a question for today. We're going to keep going with the show, but I'd love for you to put questions into the chat, and Cynthia and I will read them out loud if you like. Or, of course, you're talking amongst each other in private chat. That's why we're here. It's why we're in the tribe. Or you can raise your hand in the participant section. We'd love for you to come in and either comment or ask a question. So a response to our opening post of this man that's confused and she's flip-flopping, one of my coaches that helps moderate the forum and helps when my book is totally full is Jason Bradbury, and Andy Malloy's on here as well. The two of them are leaders in my community, in our community. And this was a post from Jason. I'll blow this up a little bit. Jason says, it would be a lot easier, excuse me. It would be a lot easier on us if they could always say what they mean and mean what they say and stick with one direction. Yeah, it'd be easier. Would it help if I shared I've learned that if part of their life is wrong, then everything in their life is wrong? So I'm wondering about this, Cynthia, where he says, if they believe that part of their life is wrong, that it seeps into everything else, and they believe that everything else in their life is wrong. I'll ask you about that in a moment here, please. In that context, it would make sense that the additional burdens of living alone would make the prospect of maintaining a relationship that had some issues seem almost not worth the effort. I think the confusion you've experienced would be maddening. I remember being really disturbed when my ex asked me back after I had spent so much time and effort to heal. It made me mad that she could just throw it out there like that. The status quo would have been better. I had mastered that. I had mastered the status quo, Jason said. So it upset him. And guys, so I was there with you guys know, and Cynthia and I have both been in that spot where an ex wants to get back together and we have to make a decision if we're moving forward, right? This work reattracts women quite often, and we have to make a decision if we want to start version 2.0 and what our ground rules of that are. And so this question, Cynthia, of would it help if I shared that learning? So if a woman believes part of her life is wrong, does it seep into the other parts of her life? Does she then project that, let's say, onto the other parts of her life, including wanting to reconcile or including, this wanting space from him and the push and pull back and forth? Can you talk with us about that, please?
Yeah, well, the image that came to my mind as you were speaking of that, if one thing's wrong, everything is wrong. It makes me think of, those like ice cream desserts or like lollipops where there's multiple layers of tastes and flavors. So there's like ice cream on the inside, and then there's caramel, and there's chocolate, and there's sprinkles on top, and there's, something on top of that. It almost made me think of when one of those layers is not tasting good. Like, you eat the first layer of chocolate, and it's amazing. And then the second layer, maybe you're not a big caramel person. So you're like, I don't want this dessert anymore. That's kind of what she's experiencing. Like, these layers out here, they're okay. And then I reach the caramel, and I'm not a caramel person. And so everything below that, she can't get to the ice cream center because she's like, there's something wrong in this layer. And I'm not going to move forward or talk about how wonderful everything is beneath that, because this is so not okay to my taste and my being and my heart.
Oh my gosh, I love that analogy. So good. That makes me think of, so I put together a passage from Straight Talk Tools, Steve Horstman's book, and I want to bring that in right now. It relates to this. So what do we do as a man if she's not liking our caramel center, Cynthia? What do we do? Do we go cry in the corner? Do we beg her? Oh, come on, you really like karma? Come on, please, mommy, approve of me. Like, definitely is not working, groveling, well, how do you not like caramel? And like being angry about it, right? So this is our theme of this week, is why anger is killing your sex life. And anger is always covering some other emotion. And if the other emotion you're feeling is sadness from rejection or concern, existential concern that the story of your life is being thrown away, of your dreams of life together, of relationship together are being thrown away, and you have this incredible despair, often it's easy to cover that, especially as men, with anger. That we utilize that as just kind of a normal of our normality, of our everyday experience, can just be like, oh yeah, I'm angry about this thing. And Andy and I were talking, actually Andy, I believe, texted me earlier today. We were talking over WhatsApp. Andy's in Spain, so he used WhatsApp. I love that. So cool. And over WhatsApp, he was saying, yeah, we as men often cover so many things, and it's normalized that we cover so many things with anger. And so if we're covering the anger of, sure, she's not liking our caramel, well, that's not going to be attractive to a man. So Steve Horstman, in his book, Straight Talk Tools, How to Stop Trying to Make Her Happy and Still Get What You Want. He says, it's helpful to know why some men fail and never become someone who gets what he wants. Here are 3 reasons. I shared this first part on the show last week, and then I'll go into some new. So here's the 3 reasons that he fails. He's impatient and overly invested in outcomes. He fails to understand and accept that the process is totally within his control, and he doesn't believe he's deserving and capable of creating what he wants. So if you don't believe you deserve it, or you don't believe that you're in control, if you're a victim, or if you're trying to get a certain outcome, that's why it fails. That's why it fails. If you're trying to force feed her the caramel, or if you're like trying to talk her into liking the caramel so you can win brownie points, or whatever the analogy is. I'm going real far with the ice cream, Cynthia. That's not going to work very well. So Steve writes, respect, trust, and connection are created by holding the values of being respectful, trusting, and connected, rather than chalking up brownie points to win those things. When you live in accordance with these values, you become a man with no expectations that others must change to please you. So you don't have expectations that others must change. Okay, you come from pleasure and happiness and groundedness and value within yourself. Steve says, You learn your value is not defined by the approval or happiness of your partner. You're operating in a mode in which you are already pleased with yourself. This is the key difference between men who have what they want and those who don't. They are willing to change who they are being in order to be pleased with themselves, not to please others or gain their approval. They become clearly aligned with the expectations they have of themselves and for themselves. By seeing their own value, they confidently invite others to join them in the life they plan to have. They want their partners to share respect, trust, and connection with them, but they don't need them to in this moment. The man is so clear and confident about their own value that pouting, arguing, and complaining are no longer options for them. Those options disgust them. Their sense of well-being is not found in a woman agreeing with them, liking them, or having sex with them. They are secure in themselves. They are certain they will have the life they want, and they know they can't control their partner's choice to join them. A feeling of liberation replaces self-doubt. So Cynthia, I'd love your feedback. So if I'm a man that's not attached to outcome, right, and I understand that things are within my control, a la Viktor Frankl in Man's Search for Meaning, I can control how I'm perceiving what's happening in my environment or what's happening around me. I can choose how I respond to my thoughts. I can either, just acknowledge them and let them go, right? Oh, that's an interesting thought. That's literally what I do. That's an interesting thought of why I have fear about money, parenting, relationship, things are going on in the world. That's an interesting thought that my limbic system is, my brain, my ego is just throwing in front of my consciousness, my awareness, right? But if I'm a man who's grounded in myself, and I'm not attached to outcome, and I know my sense of well-being is not found in my woman agreeing with me, liking me, or having sex with me, I'm secure in myself, right? I know that the life that I want to have, and I welcome her into my adventure, and I welcome to share my stories of battle in the world, and I want her as the beauty along with me. How does that feel in your body when I say that and when I read that passage, please?
Well, it really closely ties to what Andy put in the chat that says, anger can empower us like a dark mist. And then we can learn to accept the anger as part of us, own it, and give it purpose. And what you just said, Jeff, reminds me that that purpose you just modeled of this is the vision and this is the container that I, as a man, am upholding for this relationship, and that's my focus and that's my purpose. And the anger I have, I use it as a tool, as a fire for this vision, is that incredible healing energy, because deep inside of you that if you're the woman next to you is not jumping on the horse next to, and at your side riding with you on this shared adventure, if she's kind of moving off in her own direction, if she's getting off the horse, if she's closed off to you, that she's not getting to live in her fullest breathing expression, happiness, and life of herself. So you are taking this fire, this energy of this is not how I want this, and this is not what's good for this relationship, and you're moving it forward for you and for her, and offering a container for both of you to move forward into something full of breath and passion and fire and momentum.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. I've got a clip from John Wineland that Cynthia found that talks about masculine, feminine, and what our core wants are from our masculine and our feminine. It's about 1 minute long. I'm going to share that and we'll come back here.
Most feminine practitioners I know want to be with more consciousness. They want to be penetrated by deep consciousness. Most masculine practitioners I know want to be bathed in love light. And so the more that we make accessible, we become sort of channels, let's say, the more that we're requiring, others that are with us to elevate their game, their nervous system game, and all of that. So it's really an endless lifelong practice and of how to stay connected and stay deeply intimate. Now, if you take that intimacy, for example, this feeling of oneness, and then you add sexual energy to it, that's when the magic happens, right? Most of us can be intimate even with our partners. We can love our partners. We can be one with our partners to some degree, but there's not that arc of sexual energy. So the importance is to take both of them and really, deepen them as much as possible, and that's when real deep magic happens.
So let me reiterate. So he said masculine wants to penetrate with consciousness, or penetrate in general, right? So masculine wants to penetrate the world, penetrate our woman. That's what we're here for. Penetrate with consciousness. And again, consciousness is that tethered awareness of being able to watch your ego, to watch your emotions and not be swept away by your emotions into anger or into shutdown. So the masculine wants to penetrate with consciousness. And the woman, he said, wants to be bathed in love. Bathed in love. So Cynthia, if you could unmute yourself, what does it mean that a woman wants to be bathed in love in her life? Or the feminine practitioner, as John says, wants to be bathed in love. Give us some feedback on that. What does that mean to a woman, please?
It's like a receiving and a giving at the same time. I was doing some research a little bit earlier this morning, and I found a picture of, a couple together. It was a painting, and it was as if a painter had taken the palette and on their body painted red and gold and blue, and it was mimicking each person's body. And that's what it feels like to me as a woman when a man truly wants to take me in with consciousness. It feels like he is goes, oh, look at that blue color. Oh, and he paints it on his arm. And it's oh, I feel very received in that moment. And at the same time, as loving as that feels, as accepting as that feels, I want to be in a place in my life where, I'm conscious with my anger, with my shutdown, so that I can bring out water love to the people that are in my life, whether it's romantic partner or my niece and nephew or, someone I walk down the street with. And it feels like being in purpose to me when I can be conscious enough to be, even in moments of stress and exhaustion, that I can still be sending out water love to someone else.
Oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. So let me flip the coin over, Cynthia, right? Let me flip the coin over. So it's not always this beautiful, watery, golden light of bathing in blue paint and oh my God, it's so good. Yeah, definitely not always like that, right, guys? You're not here because it's fucking bathing in golden light all the time, right? You're here because...
Jeff, you always make it real. I really appreciate it.
No, I mean, that's cool. It's beauty. That's all. Okay, let me flip the fucking coin over now and let's talk about the other side of the coin. Let's talk about the temptress. Let's talk about, and so one thing that's really been hitting me, guys, that I wanted to hammer home is that in my own experience and when I coach men one-on-one, a huge piece of why we are angry is because we've gone farther past our boundary. And whether we knew that or not, we've been not honoring our own selves, either consciously or unconsciously, and abdicating our responsibility, just placating her. Okay, sweetie, walking on eggshells. I just don't want to make her upset. And now we're so far past our boundary that we're almost forced to collapse or explode, this buildup within inside of ourselves. We go and quietly collapse and just shut everything and fucking shell everything down, okay? Or we end up exploding in different moments, at our kids, with her, at work, road rage. That's why that shit's happening, is because we have something that's festering inside of us, and we need to be standing up. We need to learn our boundaries. We need to hold on to our nuts, as Wayne Levine would say, within our boundaries and values. And so, gentlemen, again, I'd love for you to raise your hand or post in chat. I'm going to share a 1-minute clip from Mark Groves. I believe I'm saying his name correctly. Mark Groves is another coach around. He's got some awesome stuff. And this is a 1-minute clip. He's a fast talker, kind of like me. Got a 1-minute clip about boundaries. Here we go right now.
First off, I think it's important to distinguish the difference between a wall and a boundary. A wall keeps people out. A boundary teaches people where the door is. It teaches people how to access us outside of these behaviors. So an example might be, hey, when you speak to me in that way, that's not okay. It doesn't feel good for me. So what I need from you is to speak this way. If you're ready to approach me and be kind, then I'm open to you. If you are not ready to be kind, then I'm going to have to end the conversation till you're able to approach me in that space. We've now just given someone a boundary of how to communicate with us. We've said what behavior is acceptable. Boundaries teach people how to love us. Now, most of us, we're afraid to enact boundaries because we're afraid that if I have boundaries, I will lose their love. But when we don't have boundaries, we actually abandon ourselves, so we lose ourselves. So the birth of it comes from us, not from them. Boundaries are so important because they're not conditional love. They're just teaching people the conditions that allow us to thrive and unconditionally love them and ourselves.
Okay, so let's break that down. So boundaries teach other people how to love us. Right? If we give someone a boundary and they choose not to want to be involved with us, that's a good thing. Mark talks about that in a lot of his videos. That it feels like shit in the moment, but that's a good thing because we've chosen us. We've chosen to be within our full expression of who we are as a man. That doesn't mean it's okay to be an asshole. Doesn't mean it's okay to be angry, these kind of things. But if we calmly and confidently are doing our work as men, if you've gone through these 3 phases of coaching, as I say, you're stop fucking up, you've grown yourself, you've grown your roots as a man, right? And now you're into the phase of ask, the phase of asking for what you want in a relationship in a calm way where you can be that masculine observer. You're tethered to the presence of your current emotions even. Like you could be upset, you could be in anxiety, right? You could be totally calm and you're an observer of that. And you're asking her, you're asking her what you want in relationship. I'd like you to speak with me this way. And so that way you're offering them a boundary, a doorway into your heart, into vulnerability and love with you. It's not a wall. It's not a demand. It's not a condition. It's pointing to the doorway to have relationship with you. So Cynthia, I'd love for you to give us some feedback on, so you and I have shared vulnerably on this show about the two of us and myself, since there's men in the show and this show is for men, right? How I've stood up for some boundaries in relationship and how I'll be vulnerable, right? So my stomach was turning because I wasn't sure how you were going to respond. I wasn't sure, like, this could be the end of the relationship if I'm standing up for myself here in this way. Like one of our kind of famous ones, Cynthia, was when you canceled last minute. I think it was like our 3rd date or something, and I was going to cook us dinner, and you canceled last minute because you wanted to focus on work, and it wasn't an emergency, right? And so I said, that's cool. Do what you got to do. And the next time we met, our next date, I took us after we ate and we went outside and we were actually sitting in this big beautiful tree out here. I brought up that boundary in a calm way. Okay. So you could have said, who are you? You're trying to control me. My work is more important. I choose my work, and the relationship would have been done, right? And what I asked was, in an emergency, I can completely understand, but otherwise it's not okay with me in our relationship to cancel last minute. So I'd like for that to, please not happen again. And that's the way I handled it. My stomach was going because this could have been the last conversation of our relationship, but help me explain what does it feel like as a woman? And I'm not sure what you're going to exactly say here, but what does it feel like a woman when the man offers the doorway of boundaries and invites you in a calm way with that masculine tether of being aware of how I'm coming across and aware of my emotions and not putting my emotions onto you, but inviting you in through the doorway? How does that feel as a woman, please?
So honestly, sometimes with boundaries, it does my heart goes, oh, or like I want to snap back. And what's so compelling about you, Jeff, is when an early conversation we had, you shared with me a vision for relationship and actually things that you had written down that you were looking for in relationship. And every one of those hit home for me of a deepest core want. And so even in that moment of, you know, I wanted to do a really good job at work and I was feeling really stressed out, and to know that that was not okay in your world to cancel with you last minute, even though that gave me oh, this doesn't feel good. And there could have been part of me that was like, done that, like, well, I'm going to be an independent woman. And yeah, like you said, like, I'm just going to keep going and doing whatever I want. The power of your solidity in not only the present moment, and the power in your open door to me, and the power of me also knowing that if I kept stepping on this boundary, you would go and you would find, you know, another relationship, was all tethered to a vision that I wanted most in my life. Like, I wanted this relationship of connection, and where that I wasn't like running like a hamster in a wheel, stressing about work. I wanted the vision you are upholding as more important than trying to meet little anxieties. And that was the entire experience for me.
Oh my gosh, thank you. You haven't answered. I love how we bring up these things and answer. You answer different ways every single time. I love that so much. What you just said there, I didn't fully realize of. I had already, let's say, led vision in the relationship, is what you're saying. And so that moment when I offered the boundary, the doorway, the way with me, it was because you were already driven by that strong vision that I had for my own self, the adventure in life and the battle, like we always say. Yeah. Something, does that hit home?
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. So that makes me think of this passage from Supercoach. I'm going to bounce over to our 3 forms of confidence here. And so the book Supercoach by Michael Neal, which I'll show the cover of in a second, has tremendously a lot to do with spiritual confidence, the why in our world, our mindset. All right. And the way we define spiritual confidence here is, do we have a growth mindset? Do we believe that we source ourselves in the world? Do we believe that the world is out for good? Do we look for the positive things in the world? Do we look for opportunities within difficulties or problems or trouble or strife? That's our mindset. That's our spiritual why. And that's our Great Men Move Mountains definition of a spiritual why. And Supercoach is a book where you can coach yourself. Okay. Coach yourself. Let me get the right screen. Where you coach yourself, or it's a book for coaches as well. And by the way, parenting is coaching. Being the masculine energy in a relationship, you must know how to coach within that context. You must know how to ask great questions. You must know how to be impartial when it's appropriate. You must know how to be able to be detached from outcome. So the book Supercoach by Michael Neal is a great read for anyone. And it's also how to coach yourself. So let me jump down to this pertinent quote. Again, I was up late reading this last night. Again, this is my 3rd time through the book. So I just pulled a couple of pieces out. Michael Neal says there's 3 levels of change. Level 1 is change in a specific situation. Level 2 is change in a specific area of life, like relationship or business or parenting. And level 3 is global change. And Michael says, the ultimate level of change is transformation, or what I sometimes call global change, a pervasive shift in our way of being in the world. At this level, it's not enough for us to develop a skill or change a feeling. It's our intangible selves we want to change. And in so doing, we change our experience of everything. Well-being is not the fruit of something you do. It is the essence of who you are. There is nothing you need to change, do, be, or have in order to be happy. Okay. Well-being is not the fruit of something you do. It's the essence of who you are. And I'll come back in a second. So Viktor Frankl, who was a psychiatrist who went into the concentration camps, I believe he was in his mid-20s, so he was very young at that time, went into Auschwitz, was one of the concentration camps, and he was a survivor of that. And in his book, Man's Search for Meaning, which is a great read, it's like super intense, okay? So just be aware. I give it to men who are in the middle of an absolute shit show in their life because I wanted them to get some perspective. Otherwise, it's kind of intense. It's not a book to start with unless you really need some fucking, if you need to be pulled up out of the quicksand, all right, and get some perspective, that's a great one. Otherwise, maybe make it book number 10 or number 20 on your list, guys, okay? So the first half of the book, the audiobook, is only about 2.5 hours long, 3 hours long, and that's his personal story of being in the concentration camps. And Viktor Frankl says that there were two kinds of people, those who just lived and those who were alive, those who had value and purpose and mission, like Cynthia was saying that I had in that moment with her when we first started dating. They had a reason to live. And the thing that they can control is their perspective on what's happening within their lives, the perspective of what's going on for them. The only thing that we can control is our feelings and thoughts about the experiences that we're having. Okay, thoughts come through our mind, experiences happen in the world, and how we perceive those experiences is the only thing that we truly control. Okay. So I want to jump in, gentlemen. If you want to post in the chat for a question or a comment, or if you want to raise your hand, I'd love for you to do that. Otherwise, I'm going to jump back here to Michael Neal. Well-being is not the fruit of something you do. It's the essence of who you are. There's nothing you need to change, do, be, or have in order to be happy. If I think my well-being comes from being around a particular person, I'll do all sorts of things I wouldn't otherwise do and put up with things I wouldn't otherwise put up with in order to keep that person around. If I think my well-being comes from my work or my income, then I'll overinvest in that job and even be willing to betray what I believe in order to preserve or enhance it. If I think my well-being comes from a food or drug, I'll do whatever it takes to get a hold of that food or drug the next time I'm feeling in need of another hit of good feelings. Right? Michael says, because of the principle of the self-fulfilling prophecy, whatever I believe will continue to appear to be true. The world is what we think it is, and when we tell ourselves that any of these things will make us happier, they will, at least for a time. But when you begin to understand that well-being is your nature, not a goal to be pursued, you'll quickly realize that all you have to do to get back is to turn your attention from the outside in. All you have to do is turn your attention from the outside in. So that's another way of saying the masculine tethered to consciousness. Okay, you are aware of what's going on from your own inside, right? You're not trying to validate yourself with food or alcohol or drugs or her validation or praise from your job or the next raise or the bigger house or the boat or whatever the fuck. You know, it's like, you know what? John Wineland talks about that when a man is angry or a man is like wanting to just get validation from the outside, that's his overblown, if you will, feminine within the man, his masculine losing control and his feminine wanting to be filled. So Cynthia talked about a woman and the feminine wants to be bathed in love and filled with love. Well, if we feel dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin from alcohol, drugs, food, going and checking the stock price, looking on social media for that dopamine hit, it's just a filling ourselves from the outside. And what Michael Neal's saying that when you begin to understand that well-being is your nature, not a goal, you can realize you can just come back to your own self in any moment that you like. In any moment that you like. So Cynthia, I see you smiling a little bit as I'm talking. I'm kind of on a soapbox here. I'd love for you to jump in and give some feedback. So when you talk with a man, when a man comes into our coaching, and guys, we did announce yesterday our small group coaching program that we just launched, and we're going to launch within the next 30 days when the cohort fills. So Cynthia, I'd love for you to talk about when a man comes into our cohort and he feels untethered or he's, consuming in a way that he doesn't want to be, what would be one first step that you would do with that man so he can start to get a grounding and perspective in his life and in his world, please?
Well, even just joining like a group with the mindset of relaunching our whole brain, and I feel this intrinsically, we get a dopamine serotonin hit when there's the idea that something's going to be new and better. and different. So even just starting with that mindset is a huge movement forward. And then I always move into next, like let's start the journey, because it's not an immediate, we have to really dig through some layers, but let's start the journey of what's not working right now. Like even like specifically, what's not working in affection and sex life, or what's not working in your daily routine. Because so often like that depression, dampening, exhaustion, anger in all of us comes when we're going like, I don't want this, push it down. It won't be different. I can't get what I want. It's too painful to connect to what I want because this other person obviously can't provide it for me. And that's just like, talk about how do you get out of bed in the morning? So it's like pulling out the fingers, the roots of that we've thought we can't even look at because they're too painful and frustrating. And then finding the opposite, letting our brain be excited by new possibilities. What do I truly want? And that identification, that clarity is not a intrinsic painful thing of going, this is what I want and look how I'm not getting it. It's this incredible process of self-ownership where almost the outcome of that dissipates because you're so clear and so certain. And that certainty, talk about, we don't need to fill ourselves up. I don't need to fill myself up with outside things. When there's clarity and certainty in me, I have stamina and I feel safe and still on a journey that's going to continue into my life.
Oh, I love that, Cynthia. And you talked just right there about our morning kingly plan, one of the free tools that we offer guys. This is so phenomenal. We talk about this in our free program, the 10 days to solve the number one cause of divorce. That's free on our website as well. You talked about number 4 here, what doesn't work for me? And number 5, what's the opposite? What do I want? And grounding yourself in these purposeful questions. So cool. So Andy, I saw you raise your hand. Yeah, come on in, please.
Hi.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, Cynthia, I love what you just said just then. I just wanted to add to it, like when you were saying, what's not working right now, and almost like how does it make you feel as well as a consequence of it? One thing that I found that was really hard for me when I started on my work for me was being honest with myself. I sort of almost lied to myself as to why I was the way I am and what I didn't want. And I found it really hard to actually sit down and tell myself the truth of what was wrong before I could start working out how do I get out of this. And it was a major, really, really hard for me to be truthful and honest with myself in what my issues were. That was a big step for me. I just wanted to add that to what you were saying. It just reminded me so much of that. And thank you.
Thank you, Andy. That really pulls at me. I know you've shared honestly, powerfully before. Is there an example of one thing that you didn't want to really look at or be honest about?
Yeah, many things. One of them was the anger issues that I had. There's loads of stuff. Anger issues were weaknesses to me. I mean, when we were talking earlier about the anger with men, I was having a chat with Jeff earlier, and I was saying, I think some of the anger issues with me that I used to have was the fact that I used to shut half my emotions down and hide them away because I thought that they were weak. And I suppose that's not necessarily part of me being honest with myself, but just taking a good hard look at myself and really, really trying to understand about me and the honesty that I had to go through to be able to learn and get myself out of the shit I was in and the numbness that I had. I mean, part of mine was drinking at the weekend to just forget about the issues that I had. It was numbing for me. Then all of that, coming to recognize that and learning that that was in me was really hard to do. really, really hard to do. And, it was upsetting to go through it as well. But it's the only way that I could find that I could then come out and become a better me. I had to own up to me and be honest.
Yeah, thank you for that. And there's something about when you share your story, there's such a openness and strength to it. I find it always very inspirational to get more honest in life.
It's a nut in my life, honesty now.
Yeah.
No other way.
Yeah. I love it. Fantastic. Thank you, Andy. I appreciate that so much. Rueben, I saw you put your hand up for a moment. We've got 30 seconds. Did you want to come in?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Andy. Since I've started this, I've taken so much more ownership, and that I was the picture in the dictionary for the Mr. Nice Guy, and that's how I approached my relationships, because I had no other way of doing it. That's how I thought it was supposed to be. Please, please, please. And then once that fell through, then I became the Mr. Bad Guy, and that's on me, and that's what I just want to, create my own independence, so that moving forward, what I want happens the way it should be, not because I'm tied to someone else.
Oh my gosh, Rueben, I love that. You and I have talked about how our story is so similar. Like, I was the nice guy, and then I was the bad guy. Definitely. I love how you put that. Yeah, our story is so similar. Thanks for coming in, Rueben. Fantastic. So Cynthia, let's wrap up our show for today.
Thank you so much for being here today on this Tuesday. And I incredibly appreciate learning from all of you about the fire and the real emotions that are in you. It's a pleasure, and it's honoring to know your honesty. And I truly appreciate your passion and being on this adventure with you on these mornings.
Thank you, Cynthia. I totally agree. Thank you so much. This has been the C-Note Show, brought to you by Great Men Move Mountains and greatmenmovemountains.com. We've got free stuff on our website. Check out the free content tab, videos, the audiobook, the free 10-day program. And we just yesterday launched, and you guys listening to this live are the only ones that have heard this so far. And we already have 2 men that are in. So in the first 24 hours, just taking it live on this show. We haven't even emailed the over 200 guys I'm going to let know. We haven't let the 120 guys on the forum know about this just yet. But it's our small group coaching program, Relaunch Your Life, Love, and Sex. That's going to start in the next 30 days. That brings all of our coaching into a small group, so it's more economical, high power. It's going to be a cohort of awesome guys that are kicking ass together. We're going to work together every single time. That's why this is going to be so powerful together. To check out that page, we made a great informational page this weekend, greatmenmovemountains.com/relaunch. And Cynthia, you typed it in the chat. Thank you so much.
And I did post it on Facebook this morning.
Oh, nice. Okay, awesome. Hey, great. Look at that. She's on the ball, guys, right? Okay, super cool. Thank you, Cynthia, so much. So we just launched this. It's brand new. We're bringing it at a fraction of, this is how it works. My practice is full, and having a group format brings it at a fraction of the cost. So that the reason I did it, guys, is number one, we can help more men. And number two, that I don't have to charge as much for the group, because it's supply demand. Like, my prices have been raising. And it kind of makes me feel bad, to be honest. Like, I want to offer guys something that's affordable as well, right? For us guys that aren't making, as much money, right? So I want to bring this to you guys in every way possible. Like, again, we believe in heart and business, and this is offering both of those at the same time. So check that out. Love you guys so much. You're here every day. This is where we do our daily work. Have a great rest of your Tuesday, guys. Ciao.
Whose sunshine, whose body burn hot. I'ma tell you about a woman who's cold as tundra with some frozen eyes. I can tell by the way she